Ferdinand Magellan, born Fernão de Magalhães, entered the world in the spring of 1480 in the small town of Sabrosa, nestled in the mountainous region of northern Portugal. His family, minor nobility, held modest influence in the local community. Although not wealthy, the Magellan household valued education and discipline, traits that would mold Ferdinand into the determined and ambitious figure history remembers. Growing up amid Portugal's burgeoning age of exploration, young Magellan was surrounded by tales of seafaring heroes who expanded the horizons of the known world, sparking his own dreams of adventure. At a young age, Magellan's parents passed away, leaving him and his siblings to fend for themselves. This loss instilled in him a resilience and resourcefulness that would serve him throughout his life. Seeking a better future, Ferdinand entered the service of Queen Leonor, consort of King John II of Portugal, as a page in the royal court. Here, he was exposed to the intellectual ferment of the time, including maps, navigational instruments, and the accounts of explorers who had ventured to Africa and beyond. This environment nurtured his innate curiosity and fueled his desire to explore the world. The court of Portugal in the late 15th century was a hub of maritime innovation. Under Prince Henry the Navigator's earlier leadership, Portugal had established itself as a pioneer in exploration, venturing down the African coast and opening trade routes to India. Ferdinand was captivated by these developments. While serving as a page, he gained access to a vast repository of knowledge, including Ptolemaic geography and the latest advancements in cartography. This intellectual foundation would later underpin his ambition to find uncharted routes to the east. Magellan's formal education extended beyond the classroom. As he matured, he developed a fascination with navigation and astronomy. He trained under some of the most skilled mariners and scholars of the age, learning the principles of celestial navigation, ship handling, and the use of instruments like the astrolabe and quadrant. This rigorous training prepared him for the challenges of leading expeditions into uncharted waters, where such skills were essential for survival. The Portuguese court was also a place of fierce competition, with ambitious individuals vying for royal favor and the chance to lead voyages of discovery. Magellan observed these dynamics closely, understanding that success required not only skill, but also political acumen. Despite his relative obscurity and lack of wealth, he began to carve out a place for himself through diligence and strategic alliances. His growing reputation as a capable and disciplined young man did not go unnoticed. In 1505, Magellan's first opportunity to venture abroad arose when he joined the fleet of Francisco de Almeida, the first Portuguese viceroy of India. As part of this expedition, Magellan traveled to the Indian Ocean, witnessing firsthand the vast potential of maritime trade. He visited ports in Africa, India, and Southeast Asia, gaining valuable experience in navigation and exposure to the diverse cultures and commodities that fueled Europe's thirst for exploration. These early voyages laid the groundwork for his later endeavors. Magellan's experiences abroad were not without challenges. He faced the dangers of piracy, shipwreck, and hostile encounters with local populations. These hardships tempered his character, reinforcing his resilience and sharpening his tactical mind. By the time he returned to Portugal, he had proven himself a capable seaman and leader, earning the respect of his peers. However, Magellan's ambitions extended far beyond serving as a mere participant in Portuguese expeditions. He began to dream of uniting the known and unknown worlds by finding a westward route to the coveted Spice Islands. Inspired by the discoveries of Christopher Columbus and Vasco da Gama, Magellan believed that the Earth's vast oceans held the key to unimaginable riches and prestige. This vision would ultimately define his legacy. Despite his growing aspirations, Magellan's relationship with the Portuguese crown began to fray. Accusations of misconduct during his time in Morocco led to a decline in royal favor, effectively ending his career in Portugal. Yet this setback did not deter him. Instead, it marked a turning point, prompting him to seek support from Spain, Portugal's rival, to realize his dream of exploration. This bold decision underscored his unyielding determination and belief in his vision. By the time Magellan left Portugal, He was no longer the wide-eyed page from Sabrosa, but a seasoned mariner with a singular goal: to prove that a westward route to the Spice Islands was not only possible, but achievable. This chapter of his life, marked by adversity, learning, and growing ambition, laid the foundation for the historic journey that would cement his place in history as one of the world's greatest explorers. Ferdinand Magellan's rise as a navigator was not an overnight success, but the result of years of hard work, perseverance, and experiences that shaped his abilities and ambitions. Following his service in the Portuguese court, Magellan embarked on a series of expeditions that honed his maritime skills and deepened his understanding of the vast and interconnected world beyond Europe. His early voyages were a proving ground, offering both triumphs and tribulations that prepared him for the monumental journey that lay ahead. One of Magellan's most formative assignments came in 1505 when he joined the armada of Francisco de Almeida, the first Portuguese viceroy of India. The expedition aimed to establish Portuguese dominance over Indian Ocean trade routes and safeguard access to spices and other valuable commodities. Magellan played a minor role in the fleet, yet the journey exposed him to the complexities of long-distance navigation, the importance of maritime diplomacy, and the dangers of venturing into foreign territories. It was during these voyages that Magellan first glimpsed the vastness of the world he wished to chart. While in the Indian Ocean, Magellan visited key trading hubs such as Goa, Malacca, and the Spice Islands, regions that were central to the burgeoning spice trade. The wealth and cultural diversity of these places left a profound impression on him. He witnessed how the exchange of goods, ideas, and technologies transformed economies and societies. These experiences not only deepened his appreciation for exploration, but also cemented his belief in the economic and strategic importance of finding alternative routes to these lucrative markets. Magellan's role in subsequent expeditions further developed his reputation as a skilled mariner. In 1511, he participated in the Portuguese conquest of Malacca, a vital trading port in Southeast Asia. This campaign was a pivotal moment in Portuguese history, solidifying their dominance over the spice trade and opening direct access to the coveted Spice Islands, or Moluccas. Magellan's involvement in this military endeavor demonstrated his tactical abilities and willingness to take risks, qualities that would later define his leadership. However, the Malacca campaign also exposed Magellan to the darker aspects of European expansion. The violence and exploitation that accompanied the conquest left him with a complex view of empire building. While he was committed to furthering his own ambitions, he also understood the moral and ethical dilemmas posed by the relentless pursuit of wealth and power. These contradictions would follow him throughout his career. Magellan's time in North Africa marked another significant chapter in his development. Stationed in Morocco as part of the Portuguese military, he faced both physical and political challenges. During a skirmish, he sustained a serious leg injury that left him with a permanent limp, a physical reminder of the sacrifices required in the service of exploration. Despite his valor, Magellan's tenure in Morocco was marred by accusations of unauthorized trading with local populations. These allegations strained his relationship with the Portuguese crown and tarnished his standing in court. The accusations against Magellan, whether true or not, had lasting repercussions. Feeling undervalued and ostracized, he began to question his loyalty to Portugal. By this time, his vision of finding a westward route to the Spice Islands had crystallized, but he found little support among Portuguese officials. Their dismissal of his ideas forced Magellan to look elsewhere for patronage, a decision that would alter the course of his life. Magellan's defection to Spain was both a practical and symbolic break with his past. In 1517, he relocated to Seville, where he sought an audience with King Charles I, later known as Charles V, Holy Roman Emperor. Presenting his case with meticulous detail, Magellan proposed a westward expedition to the Spice Islands, arguing that this route fell under Spain's jurisdiction according to the Treaty of Tordesillas. His pitch aligned with Spain's strategic interests, as the nation sought to undermine Portuguese dominance in the east. King Charles was impressed by Magellan's determination and the feasibility of his proposal. In 1518, the Spanish crown formally endorsed his plan, granting him a fleet of 5 ships, known as the Armada de Malacca. This royal support marked the culmination of years of struggle and ambition, validating Magellan's vision. However, it also placed immense pressure on him to succeed, as failure would mean financial ruin and potential disgrace. Magellan's rise as a navigator was characterized by resilience in the face of adversity. From the lessons learned in India and Southeast Asia to the personal challenges he endured in Morocco, every experience contributed to his evolution as a leader and explorer. By the time he set out under the Spanish flag, he was no longer merely a skilled mariner, but a visionary determined to rewrite the maps of the world. His journey to greatness was far from over, but the foundation for his historic voyage had been firmly laid. When Ferdinand Magellan arrived in Spain in 1517, he carried with him not only the experience of a seasoned mariner, but also the vision of an uncharted route to the Spice Islands. Having been dismissed and sidelined by his homeland of Portugal, Magellan's journey to Spain was both a necessity and a strategic move. Spain, under the reign of the young King Charles I, was eager to expand its influence and challenge Portuguese dominance in the lucrative spice trade. Magellan's proposal for a westward route aligned perfectly with Spain's geopolitical ambitions. Magellan's plan was grounded in his belief that the Spice Islands, or Moluccas, lay within the Spanish sphere of influence as defined by the Treaty of Tordesillas. This 1494 agreement, mediated by the Pope, divided the newly discovered lands outside Europe between Portugal and Spain along a meridian 370 leagues west of the Cape Verde Islands. However, the treaty's imprecise demarcation of territories in the Pacific Ocean left room for interpretation, which Magellan sought to exploit. To gain Spanish support, Magellan partnered with Rui Falero, a Portuguese cosmographer and astrologer, who shared his vision of finding a westward route to the Moluccas. Together, they presented their case to Spanish officials, emphasizing the potential economic benefits of bypassing Portuguese-controlled routes. Their argument was compelling, and in 1518, after months of negotiations, King Charles I approved the expedition. This royal endorsement marked the beginning of the Armada de Malacca, a fleet tasked with achieving what had never been done before. The fleet consisted of 5 ships: Trinidad, San Antonio, Concepcion, Victoria, and Santiago. Each ship was equipped with supplies for a journey that would span years, as well as a crew drawn from various nationalities. The fleet's diversity mirrored the multinational nature of the Spanish Empire, but it also posed challenges for Magellan, as mistrust and rivalries simmered among the crew. Despite these difficulties, Magellan was granted command of the fleet and the title of Captain General, a position that underscored Spain's confidence in his leadership. Securing financial backing for the expedition was another challenge Magellan faced. Spain's treasury was strained by ongoing wars and the demands of empire building. However, King Charles saw the potential rewards of the expedition as outweighing the risks. The promise of breaking Portugal's monopoly on the spice trade and establishing a Spanish presence in the East justified the significant investment. Private financiers and merchants also contributed funds, hoping for a share of the profits should the voyage succeed. Preparations for the expedition were exhaustive. Magellan oversaw the outfitting of the ships, ensuring they were equipped with navigational instruments, charts, and provisions. The crew's training included lessons in celestial navigation and the handling of heavy artillery, essential skills for a journey into unknown territories. Magellan's meticulous attention to detail demonstrated his understanding of the magnitude of the task ahead. However, not everyone in Spain supported Magellan. Some members of the Spanish court viewed him with suspicion, questioning his loyalty as a Portuguese expatriate. Others doubted the feasibility of his plan, arguing that the westward route he proposed was either non-existent or impractical. These detractors posed obstacles, but Magellan remained steadfast, countering skepticism with confidence in his knowledge and experience. The political and logistical hurdles did not deter Magellan. His ability to navigate the complex landscape of Spanish bureaucracy and court intrigue was as crucial to his success as his maritime skills. By the time the fleet was ready to set sail, Magellan had secured not only the king's trust, but also the legal authority to govern any lands he discovered on behalf of Spain. This combination of political acumen and technical expertise set him apart from other explorers of his time. On September 20th, 1519, the Armada de Molucca departed from the port of Sanlúcar de Barrameda, marking the beginning of a voyage that would change the course of history. Magellan's leadership was immediately tested as the fleet encountered rough seas and tensions among the crew. Yet, he remained resolute, driven by the belief that the westward passage he envisioned would not only validate his theories, but also secure his legacy as one of the greatest navigators in history. Magellan's partnership with Spain symbolized a turning point in his life. From an outcast in his homeland, he had transformed himself into a pivotal figure in Spain's quest for global influence. The expedition was more than a maritime venture. It was a bold assertion of Spanish power and a testament to human curiosity and ambition. As the fleet sailed into the unknown, Magellan's vision of connecting worlds took shape, setting the stage for one of the most remarkable achievements in the annals of exploration. On September 20th, 1519, Ferdinand Magellan's fleet of 5 ships, Trinidad, San Antonio, Concepcion, Victoria, and Santiago, set sail from the Spanish port of Sanlúcar de Barrameda. This departure marked the beginning of an unprecedented expedition aimed at discovering a westward route to the Spice Islands. The journey symbolized both a bold challenge to Portuguese dominance in the east and a leap of faith into uncharted waters. While the departure was filled with optimism, the challenges that awaited the fleet would test Magellan's leadership, resilience, and vision. The early stages of the voyage took the fleet along the Atlantic coast of Europe and Africa, where Magellan and his crew made necessary stops for supplies and repairs. These early weeks allowed the fleet to establish routines, but they also exposed tensions among the crew. Magellan, a Portuguese captain leading a predominantly Spanish expedition, faced resentment and suspicion from his Spanish officers. Some questioned his loyalty, while others doubted his ability to lead them through the unknown. Despite these undercurrents, Magellan maintained strict discipline, knowing that cohesion was vital for the success of the journey. By December 1519, the fleet had crossed the equator, entering the southern hemisphere and leaving familiar waters behind. The crossing marked a psychological shift for the crew, who now faced the vast and mysterious expanse of the Atlantic. Magellan's navigational skills were critical during this phase, as he relied on the stars, wind patterns, and currents to guide the fleet. His meticulous planning and use of celestial navigation instruments underscored his expertise as a mariner. The fleet's first major stop came at the coast of modern-day Brazil. The lush, uncharted land offered a temporary reprieve for the weary crew, who replenished their supplies and interacted with indigenous populations. These encounters were mostly peaceful, marked by the exchange of goods and cultural curiosity. However, Magellan remained cautious, aware of the potential dangers posed by unfamiliar territories and peoples. His diplomatic approach helped maintain harmony, setting a precedent for future interactions during the journey. As the fleet continued southward, the weather grew increasingly hostile. The ships faced storms, high winds, and treacherous currents, testing both their structural integrity and the morale of the crew. Magellan's leadership during these moments was crucial. He demonstrated a calm and composed demeanor, offering reassurance to his men while issuing clear commands. His ability to maintain order during adversity earned him the respect of some, but it also exacerbated tensions with others who resented his authoritarian style. By the time the fleet reached the Rio de la Plata estuary, the search for a passage through South America began in earnest. Magellan believed that a strait connecting the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans lay further south, and he was determined to find it. The search was grueling, with the crew enduring freezing temperatures, unpredictable weather, and the ever-present fear of the unknown. Weeks turned into months as the fleet probed the coastline, navigating narrow inlets and fjords in the hope of discovering the elusive passage. During this phase, descent among the crew reached a boiling point. The long and arduous journey, coupled with harsh conditions, led to frustration and mistrust. In April 1520, a mutiny broke out among several Spanish officers who questioned Magellan's leadership and the feasibility of the expedition. The mutineers seized control of 3 ships, but Magellan acted swiftly and decisively. Through a combination of force and diplomacy, he regained control of the fleet, executing the ringleaders as an example to others. This event cemented his authority, but also highlighted the fragile unity of the expedition. By October 1520, the fleet finally discovered a narrow, winding passage through the southern tip of South America. This natural strait, later named the Strait of Magellan, was a treacherous waterway marked by strong currents, jagged rocks, and dense fog. Navigating the strait was a monumental task, requiring all of Magellan's skill and determination. The successful passage, though perilous, was a triumph that validated his vision of a westward route to the Spice Islands. Emerging from the strait into the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, the fleet faced a new set of challenges. The sight of the open sea brought relief and a renewed sense of purpose, but it also underscored the enormity of the task ahead. The Pacific, named by Magellan for its deceptively calm waters, was an unknown frontier that would demand extraordinary endurance from the crew. The early phase of the expedition demonstrated the duality of Magellan's leadership. His brilliance as a navigator and his ability to inspire perseverance enabled the fleet to overcome formidable obstacles. However, his unyielding determination and rigid command style also created divisions among his men. As the fleet sailed into the Pacific, Magellan's vision of connecting the world's oceans began to take shape, but the journey's success would hinge on the crew's ability to endure the trials yet to come. As Ferdinand Magellan's fleet emerged from the narrow and treacherous Strait of Magellan in November 1520, they found themselves in a vast and seemingly endless ocean. Magellan named this body of water the Pacific, derived from the Latin word pacificus, meaning peaceful, due to the calm seas that greeted the fleet initially. However, this tranquility belied the immense challenges that lay ahead. The crossing of the Pacific would become the most grueling and perilous phase of the expedition, testing the limits of human endurance and resilience. At first, the crew was filled with optimism, buoyed by the successful navigation of the strait and the prospect of reaching the Spice Islands. However, this optimism quickly waned as the fleet sailed deeper into the Pacific. Days turned into weeks, and then into months, with no land in sight. The vast expanse of the ocean and its unrelenting monotony weighed heavily on the sailors, creating an atmosphere of despair and uncertainty. One of the greatest challenges faced by the fleet during this crossing was the severe lack of provisions. Although the ships had been stocked with supplies before leaving South America, the unexpected length of the journey depleted their reserves. Fresh water became scarce, forcing the crew to ration what little they had. Food supplies dwindled to the point where the sailors were forced to eat stale biscuits infested with worms, leather strips softened by seawater, and anything else remotely edible. Malnutrition took a devastating toll on the crew. Scurvy, a disease caused by a deficiency of vitamin C, became rampant, leading to swollen gums, loose teeth, and debilitating weakness. Many sailors succumbed to the disease, and those who survived were left physically and emotionally shattered. Magellan himself maintained his health and morale, setting an example for the crew, but he could do little to alleviate their suffering. Despite these hardships, Magellan's leadership proved instrumental in keeping the fleet moving forward. His unwavering belief in the mission's success inspired the sailors to press on, even in the face of overwhelming odds. He maintained discipline, organized the remaining resources efficiently, and offered hope by promising that land was near, a promise he fervently believed would soon come true. After weeks of endless sailing, the fleet finally sighted land in March 1521. They reached the island of Guam in the western Pacific, part of the Mariana Islands. This discovery brought immense relief to the crew, who were desperate for food, water, and rest. The island's inhabitants, the Chamorro people, provided the sailors with fresh provisions and an opportunity to recover. Although the interaction was initially peaceful, misunderstandings over resources led to tensions, forcing the fleet to leave the island sooner than anticipated. Leaving Guam behind, Magellan directed the fleet toward the Philippines, a critical waypoint on the journey to the Spice Islands. In April 1521, they arrived in the archipelago, where they encountered a network of islands governed by local chieftains. Magellan's arrival marked the first recorded interaction between Europeans and the peoples of the Philippines, initiating a series of events that would have profound consequences for both the expedition and the region. Magellan's approach to these encounters reflected his dual priorities: securing resources for the fleet and expanding the influence of Christianity. He established alliances with several local leaders, including Raja Humabon of Cebu, through diplomacy and the promise of mutual benefit. Magellan also introduced Christianity to the region, baptizing hundreds of converts, including Humabon and his family. These acts were not only religious but also political, as they helped solidify Spanish claims over the territory. However, Magellan's ambitions soon led to conflict. Seeking to expand his influence, he became embroiled in a local dispute between rival chieftains. Against the advice of his officers, Magellan agreed to support Humabon in a conflict with Lapu-Lapu, the leader of Mactan Island. This decision would prove disastrous. On April 27, 1521, Magellan led a contingent of men in an ill-fated attempt to subdue Lapu-Lapu's forces. Outnumbered and unfamiliar with the terrain, Magellan and several of his men were killed in the Battle of Mactan. The crossing of the Pacific and the events in the Philippines underscored the dual nature of exploration as both a triumph of human ambition and a tale of profound suffering and loss. While Magellan's vision and leadership had brought the fleet farther than anyone had dared imagine, his death left the expedition without its guiding force. The surviving crew faced an uncertain future, navigating uncharted waters and political tensions as they sought to complete the journey he had begun. The Pacific crossing was a testament to Magellan's determination and the crew's resilience, but it also revealed the fragility of human endeavor in the face of nature's vastness. The ordeal forged a legacy of courage and endurance, setting the stage for the expedition's eventual completion and its profound impact on the understanding of the world. The death of Ferdinand Magellan on April 27, 1521, during the Battle of Mactan was a devastating blow to the expedition. Magellan had been the driving force behind the journey, providing leadership, vision, and direction. His loss left the crew in a precarious position, not only physically, but also psychologically. They were stranded in foreign waters, far from home, with no clear leader to guide them. However, the story of the expedition did not end with Magellan's death. Instead, the surviving crew members were forced to adapt, reorganize, and find a way to complete their mission. In the immediate aftermath of the battle, the crew struggled to regroup. The death of their captain general created a leadership vacuum that needed to be filled quickly to prevent chaos. The remaining officers convened to appoint new commanders, eventually selecting Duarte Barbosa and João Serrao, both Portuguese, to co-lead the fleet. Their dual leadership arrangement reflected the necessity of maintaining unity among the diverse crew, but it also underscored the fragility of their situation. Magellan's alliances with local rulers, particularly Raja Humabon of Cebu, began to unravel. Initially, these alliances seemed to offer the fleet protection and resources, but Magellan's death weakened the Spaniards' position. Humabon, sensing an opportunity to assert his authority, turned against the Europeans. He lured several crew members, including Duarte Barbosa and João Serrao, to a feast where they were ambushed and killed. This betrayal decimated the fleet's leadership and morale, leaving the remaining sailors to fend for themselves. Amid the chaos, one Sebastián Elcano, a Basque mariner, emerged as a pivotal figure. Though not originally in a position of high authority, Elcano's experience, pragmatism, and steady demeanor made him a natural leader. Recognizing the dire circumstances, he rallied the crew and focused on the primary objective: reaching the Spice Islands and returning to Spain. His leadership was instrumental in restoring order and setting a course for survival. The fleet, now reduced to 3 ships, sailed on with renewed determination. However, internal challenges persisted. Food and water remained scarce, and the crew was plagued by disease and exhaustion. The loss of trust between the Europeans and local populations made resupplying increasingly difficult. Yet, Elcano's ability to maintain discipline and his focus on the mission kept the men moving forward, even as their numbers dwindled. In November 1521, after months of hardship, the fleet finally reached the Moluccas, the fabled Spice Islands. This arrival marked a critical turning point for the expedition. The islands were the primary goal of the journey, and reaching them validated Magellan's vision of a westward route. The surviving crew established trade agreements with local rulers, securing a cargo of valuable spices, including cloves and nutmeg. This success offered a glimmer of hope amidst the expedition's hardships, but the journey was far from over. The fleet's condition was dire, with only 2 ships, Trinidad and Victoria, deemed seaworthy. The decision was made to divide the remaining crew between the 2 vessels. The Trinidad attempted to return to Spain via the Pacific route, but was ultimately captured by Portuguese forces in the East Indies. The Victoria, under Elcano's command, took the riskier but shorter route westward around the Cape of Good Hope, navigating the Portuguese-controlled waters of the Indian Ocean. The journey home was fraught with peril. The Victoria faced fierce storms, dwindling supplies, and the constant threat of Portuguese interception. The crew's suffering reached its peak as they crossed the Indian Ocean and rounded Africa's southern tip. Many sailors succumbed to starvation and disease, and those who survived were reduced to skeletal figures, barely able to carry out their duties. On September 6, 1522, almost 3 years after the fleet had departed Spain, the Victoria returned to the port of Sanlúcar de Barrameda. Out of the original 270 crew members, only 18 emaciated sailors remained. Despite the losses, their return marked the first successful circumnavigation of the globe, a monumental achievement that confirmed the world's roundness and the interconnectedness of its oceans. The aftermath of Magellan's death revealed the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit in the face of adversity. While Magellan's leadership had brought the expedition to the cusp of success, it was the collective effort of the surviving crew, led by figures like Elcano, that completed the journey. Their perseverance in the face of unimaginable hardship not only honored Magellan's vision, but also redefined humanity's understanding of the world. The expedition, though fraught with loss and suffering, remains a testament to the indomitable will to explore and discover. The return of the Victoria to Spain on September 6, 1522, marked a historic moment in the annals of exploration. For the first time, humans had successfully circumnavigated the globe, providing irrefutable evidence of the Earth's roundness and the interconnectedness of its oceans. Although Ferdinand Magellan did not live to see the completion of his vision, the voyage he initiated reshaped humanity's understanding of geography, trade, and global dynamics. This chapter explores the immediate and long-term impacts of the expedition, emphasizing its significance in world history. The circumnavigation was a monumental scientific and navigational achievement. It confirmed the spherical nature of the Earth, a concept theorized by ancient Greek scholars but now proven through empirical evidence. By tracing a continuous westward route, the expedition provided a practical demonstration of global geography, challenging and refining existing maps. The voyage also revealed the vastness of the Pacific Ocean, correcting misconceptions about the distances between continents and deepening the understanding of the planet's scale. Economically, the expedition underscored the immense value of the Spice Islands and their lucrative resources. The spices brought back by the Victoria, particularly cloves and nutmeg, were worth more than the cost of the entire expedition, despite its heavy losses. This wealth cemented the importance of establishing direct trade routes to the east and fueled further European competition for control over the spice trade. The circumnavigation also demonstrated the economic potential of global maritime exploration, inspiring other nations to invest in similar ventures. Politically, the expedition had far-reaching implications. It bolstered Spain's claims to territories in the east, challenging Portugal's dominance and escalating tensions between the two powers. Although the Treaty of Tordesillas had divided the world between Spain and Portugal, the expedition's findings complicated these boundaries, particularly in the Pacific and East Indies. Spain's assertion of sovereignty over the Moluccas intensified the rivalry, leading to the Treaty of Zaragoza in 1529, which attempted to delineate spheres of influence more clearly. Culturally, the expedition expanded Europe's understanding of the diversity of the world. The encounters with indigenous peoples across South America, the Pacific, and Southeast Asia introduced Europeans to new languages, religions, customs, and ways of life. These exchanges, while often exploitative and unequal, marked the beginning of a more interconnected global culture. However, they also foreshadowed the conflicts and colonization that would follow in the wake of European expansion. For Spain, the successful circumnavigation was a source of immense national pride. It demonstrated the country's ability to rival and surpass Portugal's achievements in exploration. King Charles I celebrated the Victoria's return, rewarding Juan Sebastián Elcano with a pension and the honorary coat of arms bearing a globe and the Latin inscription, Primus circumdedisci me, you first encircled me. Elcano's leadership during the latter stages of the journey ensured the completion of Magellan's vision, securing his place in history alongside the fallen Captain General. Despite its triumphs, the expedition also highlighted the human cost of exploration. Of the original 270 crew members who set sail, only 18 returned. The rest succumbed to disease, starvation, conflict, and the perils of the sea. Magellan himself became a symbol of both the potential and the perils of exploration. A visionary leader whose ambition and determination pushed the boundaries of human knowledge, but whose decisions sometimes led to unnecessary risks and loss of life. The circumnavigation also revealed the limitations of European maritime technology and knowledge at the time. While the achievement was groundbreaking, it was accomplished at great cost, underscoring the need for better navigational tools, improved shipbuilding techniques, and greater understanding of global weather patterns. These lessons would inform future explorations, leading to advances that made subsequent voyages less perilous and more efficient. Magellan's expedition left an indelible mark on the world. It demonstrated the feasibility of global navigation, paving the way for increased exploration and trade. The voyage also symbolized the beginning of the modern age of globalization, as it established new connections between continents and cultures. However, it also served as a prelude to the darker aspects of European expansion, including exploitation, colonization, and the disruption of indigenous societies. In the centuries since the expedition, Magellan's legacy has been both celebrated and scrutinized. He is remembered as a pioneer of exploration, a man whose vision and courage changed the course of history. At the same time, his story raises questions about the human cost of ambition and the ethical dimensions of exploration. The circumnavigation of the globe remains a landmark achievement, a testament to humanity's curiosity and resilience, but it also serves as a reminder of the complexities and consequences of venturing into the unknown. Ferdinand Magellan's expedition, culminating in the first circumnavigation of the globe, had profound global consequences. While the voyage was initially intended to establish a westward route to the Spice Islands, its broader impacts reverberated across continents, reshaping trade networks, political dynamics, and cultural exchanges. This chapter explores how the journey catalyzed global transformations, marking the beginning of a new era of interconnectedness and conflict. One of the most immediate consequences of the expedition was its role in revolutionizing global trade. By successfully circumnavigating the world, the expedition demonstrated the feasibility of transoceanic trade routes that connected Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas. This achievement laid the groundwork for what would later become the global maritime trade system. European powers, particularly Spain and Portugal, intensified their competition to control lucrative trade routes, ushering in an era of fierce maritime rivalry. The voyage also accelerated European colonial expansion. The discoveries made during the expedition revealed the vast economic potential of previously uncharted territories. The wealth of spices brought back by the Victoria underscored the importance of the East Indies, spurring European powers to assert their dominance over these regions. Spain, in particular, claimed sovereignty over the Philippines, initiating a wave of colonization that would shape the region's history for centuries. The circumnavigation altered geopolitical dynamics, especially between Spain and Portugal. The two maritime empires, already bound by the Treaty of Tordesillas, 1494, found their territorial claims increasingly contested. Magellan's expedition raised questions about the true extent of Spanish and Portuguese spheres of influence. This tension culminated in the Treaty of Zaragoza, 1529, which sought to clarify the division of territories in the Pacific and the East Indies. Despite such agreements, the rivalry between the two powers persisted, shaping global politics for decades. Culturally, the expedition facilitated unprecedented exchanges between Europe and the regions it encountered. The crew's interactions with indigenous peoples in South America, the Pacific, and Southeast Asia introduced Europeans to new foods, technologies, and cultural practices. Similarly, European goods and ideas were disseminated to these regions, setting the stage for a complex interplay of influence and adaptation. While these exchanges enriched global cultures, they also led to the erosion of indigenous traditions and autonomy in many cases. The expedition had a transformative impact on the understanding of geography and science. By circumnavigating the globe, Magellan's fleet provided definitive proof of the Earth's roundness and its vast size. This knowledge challenged existing cartographic models and inspired further exploration. The voyage also emphasized the importance of celestial navigation and spurred advancements in maritime technology. These innovations would play a crucial role in subsequent explorations and the expansion of global trade networks. Economically, the expedition highlighted the potential for immense profits in the spice trade, which became a driving force behind European exploration. The voyage demonstrated that the wealth of the East Indies could be accessed not only by sailing eastward around Africa, but also via westward routes. This realization prompted European powers to invest heavily in exploration, seeking alternative routes to bypass Portuguese-controlled territories. The ensuing competition reshaped global trade, linking distant markets in ways that were previously unimaginable. The circumnavigation also exposed the human and environmental costs of exploration. The exploitation of indigenous peoples, the spread of diseases, and the disruption of local ecosystems were stark reminders of the darker consequences of European expansion. These impacts were particularly evident in the Philippines, where Spanish colonization led to significant cultural and political changes. The expedition thus marked the beginning of a complex and often contentious relationship between Europe and the regions it sought to dominate. Magellan's expedition contributed to the development of globalization, a process characterized by the growing interconnectedness of people, cultures, and economies. The voyage demonstrated that the world was not only navigable, but also interdependent. This realization paved the way for increased cultural exchanges, trade, and technological innovation. However, it also laid the foundation for the inequalities and conflicts that often accompanied European imperialism. In retrospect, Magellan's journey was a pivotal moment in world history. It bridged the gap between previously isolated regions, fostering a sense of global unity while also introducing new challenges and tensions. The expedition's legacy is a complex tapestry of triumph and tragedy, innovation and exploitation. It marked the dawn of a new age, one defined by exploration, discovery, and the relentless pursuit of connection across the vast expanse of the globe. The expedition led by Ferdinand Magellan is celebrated as one of the greatest achievements in the history of exploration. However, the legacy of Magellan's journey is not without its ethical complexities. While the circumnavigation of the globe expanded human knowledge, promoted scientific progress, and spurred economic growth, it also gave rise to a host of moral dilemmas that continue to shape our understanding of exploration and its consequences. This chapter explores the ethical dimensions of Magellan's voyage, focusing on the treatment of indigenous peoples, the human cost of exploration, and the long-term effects of European colonialism. One of the most pressing ethical concerns surrounding Magellan's expedition is the impact it had on the indigenous peoples encountered by the crew. Throughout their journey, the Europeans interacted with numerous indigenous groups, ranging from the native populations of South America to the inhabitants of the Philippines. These encounters were often framed as opportunities for peaceful exchange, but in reality, they were marked by a significant power imbalance. Magellan and his crew, equipped with advanced weapons and technological superiority, imposed European values, practices, and trade interests on the indigenous communities they encountered. In South America, the expedition's journey through the Strait of Magellan brought the Europeans into contact with various indigenous groups, such as the Patagonians and the Fuegians. These groups, largely isolated from the wider world, were confronted with the presence of foreign invaders. While some encounters were peaceful, others were characterized by violence. The crew's treatment of these indigenous peoples was not always respectful, and the introduction of European diseases, to which the native populations had no immunity, caused widespread suffering and death. In the Philippines, Magellan's encounter with the native population was similarly fraught with tension. While Magellan attempted to convert the local leaders to Christianity and establish alliances, his aggressive involvement in local politics led to violent conflicts. Magellan's death at the hands of the Filipino warrior Lapu-Lapu was a direct result of his intervention in a local dispute, demonstrating the dangers of European intervention in indigenous affairs. The resulting Spanish colonization of the Philippines brought profound changes to the indigenous societies, disrupting their cultures and way of life. The human cost of Magellan's expedition also raises ethical questions. The journey, which involved extensive hardships, resulted in the deaths of many crew members, both from disease and conflict. The crew endured starvation, scurvy, and the psychological toll of prolonged isolation in the vast Pacific. These human sacrifices were seen by some as the inevitable price of exploration, but they also reflect the harsh realities of imperial ambitions. Magellan's insistence on continuing the journey, even in the face of mounting difficulties, raises questions about the ethical responsibilities of leaders toward their subordinates. Magellan's treatment of his crew members also highlights a tension between leadership and exploitation. While he demonstrated remarkable determination and foresight in organizing the expedition, his decisions often disregarded the well-being of his men. The decision to push on through the perilous Pacific Ocean, despite the absence of adequate supplies, resulted in suffering and death. The death of Magellan himself in the Philippines and the subsequent power struggles within the expedition suggest a leadership style that was more authoritarian than collaborative. While Magellan's vision was revolutionary, it was also one that demanded great personal sacrifice from those under his command. The broader consequences of European exploration, exemplified by Magellan's expedition, also invite ethical scrutiny. The drive to expand European power and influence often led to the exploitation of native populations and the extraction of resources from newly discovered lands. Magellan's expedition was not just a scientific mission. It was part of a larger geopolitical strategy aimed at securing control over global trade routes. The arrival of Europeans in the Pacific, Asia, and the Americas initiated a pattern of colonialism that involved the subjugation, displacement, and often destruction of indigenous cultures and societies. Magellan's voyage contributed to the establishment of global trade networks that benefited European powers while often undermining the autonomy of the regions they colonized. The spice trade, in particular, became a driving force behind the European conquest of the East Indies, with local rulers and populations subjected to economic exploitation. The influx of European goods, such as firearms, textiles, and alcohol, transformed indigenous societies, often leading to economic dependency and cultural assimilation. The ethical implications of this global exchange of goods and ideas are complex, as it brought both benefits and harms to the regions involved. The ethical questions surrounding Magellan's voyage also extend to the legacy of European exploration more broadly. While Magellan's circumnavigation provided valuable insights into global geography and led to significant scientific advances, it also marked the beginning of an era in which European powers sought to dominate and control vast portions of the world. This legacy of colonialism, marked by exploitation, violence, and cultural destruction, has had lasting effects on the regions that were colonized. The ramifications of this period continue to be felt today, as former colonies grapple with the long-term impacts of European rule. In examining the ethical dimensions of Magellan's expedition, it is crucial to recognize the complexities inherent in the history of exploration. The quest for knowledge, wealth, and power was often intertwined with exploitation, violence, and cultural erasure. While Magellan's journey undeniably expanded human understanding and facilitated global connections, it also contributed to the forces of imperialism and colonialism that shaped the modern world. By critically assessing the ethical implications of his voyage, we can better understand the multifaceted legacy of European exploration and its ongoing impact on global history. Magellan's expedition serves as a reminder that the pursuit of knowledge and discovery, while admirable in many ways, must be examined through a lens that considers the costs borne by those who were impacted by it. The ethical challenges of Magellan's voyage are not merely a reflection of the past, but also a framework for understanding the moral complexities of contemporary exploration and globalization. As we continue to navigate the ethical questions surrounding exploration, it is essential to consider the experiences and perspectives of those whose lives were shaped by the actions of explorers like Magellan. The legacy of Ferdinand Magellan endures in both the historical record and the collective consciousness of modern societies. His expedition, despite its setbacks and tragic losses, fundamentally changed the course of human history, making significant contributions to the fields of geography, science, trade, and international relations. In reflecting on Magellan's journey, it becomes clear that the impact of his expedition extends beyond its immediate historical context, influencing modern perceptions of exploration, colonialism, and global interconnectedness. This final chapter examines the enduring relevance of Magellan's legacy, highlighting its continued significance in the context of modern challenges, global exploration, and our evolving understanding of history. Magellan's circumnavigation of the globe remains a monumental achievement in the history of exploration. The expedition confirmed the spherical nature of the Earth, established the vastness of the Pacific Ocean, and provided evidence for the interconnectedness of the world's oceans. In modern times, Magellan's journey serves as an early and crucial moment in the development of global navigation. Without his journey, it is unlikely that later explorers would have been able to make the advancements in map-making and navigation that shaped the age of exploration. Magellan's expedition thus laid the foundation for future voyages that would further expand humanity's understanding of the planet. The scientific and technological advances resulting from Magellan's expedition are still felt today. Magellan's use of celestial navigation, as well as his observation of ocean currents, weather patterns, and star constellations, laid the groundwork for the modern techniques of navigation that continue to guide seafarers and astronauts alike. Magellan's innovations in maritime technology, especially the use of more durable ships for long voyages, set a precedent for the shipbuilding technologies that would facilitate further European expansion across the world. These achievements continue to resonate in the way we approach and understand the physical world. However, as much as Magellan's expedition contributed to scientific progress, it also ushered in an era of imperialism and colonialism, the legacies of which persist in contemporary discussions of globalization and international relations. The encounter between European explorers and indigenous populations, such as those in the Philippines and South America, initiated a pattern of cultural domination and exploitation that reshaped the global order. Magellan's journey marked the beginning of European expansion that, while fostering the exchange of goods and ideas, also led to the subjugation, displacement, and suffering of native peoples. The ethical questions surrounding Magellan's legacy continue to be relevant today. The history of European exploration is deeply entwined with the history of colonialism, and it raises critical discussions about the moral dimensions of progress. While Magellan's journey opened new trade routes and expanded human knowledge, it also laid the groundwork for the extraction of resources, the spread of diseases, and the destruction of indigenous cultures. The ongoing impact of colonialism can still be seen in the political and economic systems of former colonies, as they contend with the legacies of exploitation and cultural erasure. Thus, in reflecting on Magellan's legacy, we must also confront the darker aspects of exploration and colonialism. Magellan's expedition also holds lessons for contemporary debates about global interconnectedness and cultural exchange. In our increasingly interconnected world, the exploration of new frontiers, whether in space, digital technologies, or the global economy, reminds us of the complex interplay between progress and exploitation. Just as Magellan's journey facilitated the exchange of knowledge and resources, it also marked the beginning of systems that prioritized European dominance and economic gain at the expense of others. This duality, advancement alongside exploitation, should serve as a cautionary tale for today's explorers, policymakers, and business leaders. In today's globalized world, where borders are increasingly porous and international cooperation is essential, the questions raised by Magellan's expedition about power, dominance, and exchange are more relevant than ever. The modern world, characterized by technological advances and international trade networks, reflects both the opportunities and dangers highlighted by Magellan's journey. As nations continue to navigate the complexities of global governance, trade, and diplomatic relations, understanding the legacy of Magellan's voyage can help inform contemporary strategies that aim to balance exploration and innovation with ethical considerations. Magellan's story also serves as a reminder of the individual agency within the broader currents of history. While Magellan's own life and leadership were marked by ambition and personal sacrifice, his journey also reflects the complexities and unpredictability of human endeavors. Magellan's ability to navigate political alliances, manage a diverse and often discontented crew, and maintain the focus on his mission in the face of adversity provides valuable insights into the nature of leadership, resilience, and determination. However, his flaws, his overconfidence, his decision to push forward despite mounting risks, serve as a reminder that even the most visionary leaders can falter, and that great achievements often come at significant personal and ethical cost. The intersection of Magellan's legacy with the history of European exploration also raises important questions about memory and historical interpretation. How we remember Magellan and his expedition has evolved over time. Early accounts emphasized his heroism and visionary leadership, while modern interpretations focus on the broader impact of his journey, acknowledging both its contributions to scientific progress and its implications for indigenous peoples. This shift reflects a broader trend in the field of history, where scholars increasingly seek to uncover the voices and experiences of those who were marginalized or erased in traditional narratives. Magellan's enduring legacy challenges us to reconcile the triumphs of exploration with the profound consequences that accompanied them. As we continue to explore new frontiers, whether in space, technology, or the global marketplace, we must be mindful of the lessons from the past. Magellan's journey offers valuable insights into the complexities of exploration, trade, and cultural exchange. His story serves as a reminder that progress is not neutral, and that the pursuit of knowledge and expansion must be accompanied by an awareness of its ethical dimensions. Ultimately, the legacy of Ferdinand Magellan is a multifaceted one, encompassing both the triumphs of human ambition and the darker consequences of colonialism. His circumnavigation of the globe reshaped the world, opening new trade routes and expanding the limits of human knowledge. Yet, as we reflect on his journey, we are reminded of the complex interplay between exploration, exploitation, and the ethical challenges that arise from the quest for power and knowledge. Magellan's story, with its mixture of heroism, tragedy, and ethical ambiguity, remains a powerful lens through which we can examine the past, reflect on the present, and shape the future.